So when people talk about like finding the 70-cent deal or the 75-cent deal, you actually have to find like the 50-cent deal if you're leveraging that high. Because when you go to refinance, if you're doing a cash out refinance, you're going to be limited to 75% loan to value. And so if you're
Mm,
100% leveraged on that, there is a good chance that you're actually leveraged on the purchase side before you even get into a refinance, more than what you can do a cash out or a rate and term for, which that really caps out at 80%.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Pros podcast. I'm Kristen, and I'm here with Carrie Matuga, who is the founder of Fynd Capital. She's an investor herself, so we're going to get a very well-rounded perspective of the whole market. I'm excited to get into it. Thanks for being here, Carrie.
Oh, Kristen, I'm really excited to be here as well.
Amazing. So, you have such great experience in this industry, and I feel like you're going to be able to help a lot of people on kind of what you see in the market and where you see it going. But let's start at the beginning. How did you get into the industry?
I think like everybody else, I listened to the Bigger Pockets podcast for years and years and years. And I had, I started investing in real estate on my to-do list. And my mom got sick and COVID happened, and I decided it was time for a major pivot. So I sold my house and I took the capital that I had from that and decided I was going full force into real estate.
Oh, wow. So you just went all for it.
Yes.
How was that in the beginning? Like, what did that look like when you just went all in?
Well, I took a mentorship class
Right.
so that I could really learn, and I did that while I was working, and so I really learned the ins and outs of basic underwriting and the BRRRR process and identifying a market, and I started networking with people. Um, I think I I wouldn't be where I'm at if I hadn't made those decisions, but I think if I could go back with the knowledge that I have right now, I probably would have gone a little bit slower
Mm,
and, not I think you make different decisions for investing in real estate when you're trying to live on the funds than whether you're trying to use it as time freedom, generational freedom, like something
right.
down the line. But again, like I wouldn't, all journeys I think are worth it. And I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't have experienced and be able to reach all the people that I can reach now had I not gone through everything that I did.
Absolutely. And how has that kind of shifted your perspective of where you're at now? Like, what's your goal with real estate, and how has your strategy kind of adjusted over the years?
Yeah, so I come to find capital really as an investor first, and I saw a need in the market where there aren't always that many women in the financing space.
Right.
And there also isn't, when you're talking to lenders on the other side, they're not always you have to meet people where they're at, and they're not always investors. And so, I think as a newer investor, you are thinking that like the people that you're going to are going to be able to be a second set of eyes on the deal and not necessarily tell you whether a deal is a good deal. And
Mhm.
you realize that, like, for many lenders, they don't actually care if it's a good
Right.
deal, if it's something that they can put in their books and earn their commission because they have to work really hard to get these deals done.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
And
Uh-huh.
I didn't really feel like there was a space to ask questions. I didn't know if I was getting, when it was like, here's your term sheet, take it or leave it. I didn't know if what I was getting was a good option. And so I was really able to take what I had learned and the mistakes that I made in investing and being put into the wrong loans because I only talked to one lender, and really roll that into what I'm doing for Fynd Capital. And honestly, it's been I've done a lot of things in my career, from trading to being a vice president and like really high up in the as a beauty executive and built other people's businesses. I never in a million years would have thought that I would have found the level of joy and contentment and almost like a mission helping other investors, being on the phone all day, like, in this kind of a role is so different than anything I've ever done. But what I
Mhm.
love about it is the people connection, the coaching. I love helping people to not make the same mistakes that I did. And so
Right.
my real estate investing side has been on pause for a little bit, and I'm about ready to start to pick it back up and smarter and better and with a lot more knowledge. But I'm able to use Find Capital to really reach a lot of people and mentor a lot of people. And I'm thrilled with where I'm at.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, that's so awesome to hear that you've, tried a lot of stuff and this is really what's fulfilling you and sticking. I feel like that education aspect and the knowledge aspect is so important because I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to the money stuff, I think a lot of people just outsource it and they don't even really want to think about it. So, can you talk more about that education piece and kind of the value you provide there for your clients?
I think that there are a lot of amazing coaches out there, and I think that there's a lot of amazing content out there. I think that though really understanding financing and underwriting and how lenders think and um, understanding like the cost of, borrowing your gap funding and your all of your closing costs and what your impact is on your profitability when
Yeah.
your days on market go from, 45 to 90 or 120 and, really like building that in and modeling that out. I think that, from the simplest perspective of like, oh, it's a 70-cent deal, like that's all I need to worry about, like really misses a lot of the nuances of, what different lending options are, that they're not all the same, that they cost different things. That they have different terms, that, it's probably potentially worth it to pay a little extra to have a year-long term versus like going in for 6 months because these extensions, eat into your capital. And so I think that layering in not only what you should pay for it, but all of your holding costs, what happens, if you're going to be doing a refinance transaction, going into a deal, especially if you're doing a rehab, knowing like, what's the long-term rent going to be? What's the short-term rent can be? What are your true options if worst case scenario happens and you can't get out? And so I think
Right.
that these are things you don't know, you don't think about, and a lot of the classes touch on financing, but it's like a module. And it's
Mhm.
because they're trying to teach so much that it needs to be more than a module because if the numbers don't work and you're putting too much hopium in, then you can find yourself into a world of trouble that is also not talked about a lot.
Mhm. Totally. It's definitely an aspect of the business that requires creativity and strategy, and I think the misconception I've seen is people kinda think it's just one size fits all. Well, I need money, and that's kind of it. So I think that's wonderful, and, you've talked to me a little bit before this podcast, and you were talking about kind of the changes you've seen in the market and people needing to be a little smarter with their numbers now and with their underwriting. I would love for you to expand on that.
If you're looking for consistent, high quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Yeah, I think that in the last 6 months, 8 months, we've seen a pretty dramatic change from this being, a seller's market. And so, I mean, anybody who has gotten into real estate in the last 10 years is only used to it being a seller's market, and we're not
Mhm.
there anymore. I mean, we haven't experienced a crash, and I think that there's enough of a housing issue that I'm not expecting a crash, but there's definitely a lockup and a freeze
Mhm.
because the buyers and sellers are coming at it from two totally different perspectives. Buyers are like, "Oh, it's 2008, we can negotiate and whatnot." And sellers are like, "No, it's 2018." And that mismatch with also having like 40% of all households like have no mortgage, and the 50% of those that have mortgages are like less than 4%, then there's no incentive to move, because moving and getting into a 6 or 7% mortgage is double your expenses. And so
Mhm.
there's a real disconnect. And so that means that anybody that's getting into an investment property and, they're trying to do a fix and flip, like they're just not selling as fast. And appraisals are coming in light, and that has an impact on you whether you're refinancing because you want to hold on to it, or whether you're trying to sell it. And so more and more people are having to hold on to properties for a year, hoping that, inventory, because the ratio of inventory is off pretty significantly. Meaning that in many markets, there's 4 times more, sellers than there are buyers. And so things just aren't moving, and buyers are being pickier than they've ever been able to be in the last 10 years. And so that
Mhm.
just means you have to double down on your underwriting and on your exit strategies and on your due diligence. And I think many people wait to have conversations about financing until they're actually under contract. And I think the smarter thing now is actually to have those pre-conversations so that you know what you're getting into when you're not under the gun to close based on your closing date.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you, I mean, when you're talking about this and people need to be a little bit more careful, like, how do you suggest that they learn what they need? Like, where do you even start to get the knowledge base?
I think it's challenging. I think that anybody that I talk to, we have these conversations one on one, as a part of like, okay, great. So you're looking to make a purchase for X. This is the rehab. This is the ARV. Let's talk about your exit. And so I'm having those conversations on a one on one basis with my clients, but I think it's a missing spot in the market that I'm actually looking to address with some additional coaching about financing and underwriting and just being careful, because you can lose a lot of money if you're not careful with your numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the other end, I would love for you to talk about the opportunity being a buyer.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the thing is that you make your number you make your number on the buy side, right? No matter what you do. And so right now, I think that there is a glut of opportunity in so many markets where you have for the first time in years the opportunity to negotiate and put in for seller credits or temporary, buy downs so that your rates get better. You there are it's a really powerful spot to be in,
Yeah.
and that this isn't even just in one asset class. It's going to be it's in single family, it's in small multifamily. I mean, even in larger multifamily, all those people that bought in 2020, those corporate, the entities that bought in 2020 are facing, a reset of their interest rates and their cap rates. So it could be a really interesting opportunity, in larger multifamily as well, because there is going to be a lot of people that and have already started to experience issues with not being funded the right way based on where the new cap rates are.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, there's always two sides to the market, but I think that there's a lot of trepidation right now, people not knowing if it's the right time to get into the market. And I think it's always great that there's, excitement and opportunity around the market still. And it's still a great time to get into it.
I mean, they always say what the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago and the next best time is today. And I think that that applies to real estate too. I mean, if you look at the graph of most of real estate, it's kind of gone in like at least a line that's like this
Yeah.
historically. So yeah, lock your numbers in, make sure you've got your exit strategies. But I I think if you've got the room and you've crunched your numbers and you feel really good about the market and you're looking at, economic conditions that are affecting the market, whether it's like a new data processing center or Amazon or something that has to do with AI or universities, and you're seeing a population growth, and the numbers work, I think it would be a shame to sit on the side.
Yeah, 100%. And I would love for you to talk more about exit strategies and maybe multiple ways to drive the income.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, your exit strategies are to sell it, but also, just some interesting rental models right now, right? You have short term models have been under some stress. And so, people who have had short term rentals are pivoting and including midterm rentals, and they're finding a lot more stability with that. So, the rent might be a little bit lower, but it's more consistent. There's less cleaning costs, there's less turnaround. So it's not it's a significantly higher rent than long term, and, you're filling a need for people that have had some sort of maybe crisis, whether it's an insurance issue or whether they're traveling or whether they have to move for, because they're moving to a new market and they need to find a permanent housing. So it tends to be something that people are finding a lot of joy in.
Right.
And from a financing perspective, really, you qualify those kinds of midterm rentals either using long-term rental if the DSCR rate would work, or short-term rental. I think the other interesting strategy that seems like it's being talked about in all kinds of real estate circles is the co-living model with pad split. And that really originated in the Atlanta market, and the Atlanta market has really taken off from that. And I know a lot of investors who have picked up a lot of properties really quickly, and they're making an incredible amount of money filling a need of, people that can't afford to have, a full place, but they really want and deserve to live in nice quality housing.
Yeah.
And, when you look at the ability to divide up a house and, use more spaces for bedrooms and what that means on a weekly basis, it can be really profitable. Now, the
Yeah.
flip side to that is that, neighbors don't necessarily like it. You create parking issues, and financing it, is is still being developed, right? Most people are getting into it using like qualifying it based on a short-term rental. And the challenge then comes when you go to refinance it or you try to sell it, because no lender really knows what to do with a house that was like a 5 bedroom, 3 bath, and now it's like a 9 bedroom, 4 bath. It just, the houses like that aren't really created, and you kind of walk the line of being like a boarding house. And so you have to be careful with that model. Like Philadelphia is notoriously tough for that. They're just shutting down this and they're making people who are doing it get boarding house permits. But in markets like, outside of Atlanta, there's a handful of cities where if you have a nice place that are extremely lucrative. And then there's other places where it's just getting well known. But I think the risk is that it has to do with regulation. So no matter what you do for an exit strategy, you should be talking and calling the city and understanding what kinds of rental options are available. That's a mistake that I made in Chattanooga when I bought a property there. And, the realtor that I worked with had said, well, it's a quadruplex and you have the opportunity where you could turn half of them into a short-term rental and the other half into long. And that ended up not being the case. I should have done more due diligence on my side to realize that Lake Chattanooga does not allow short-term rentals at all, and they have really strict regulations. So then that just becomes like a major exit strategy that isn't a possibility. They also don't have pad split there. They may soon, but it's not a market that pad splits in. So again, another avenue that's a bit more challenging. So as you're analyzing these markets, you just want to know what your options are and make sure that they're actually viable.
Absolutely. And I think specifically with short term rentals, I think the regulations are kind of changing all the time. I think that
Yeah.
you have to stay on top of it. Like if it was the case a year ago, it might not be the case today. So I think it's
Yeah.
really good advice to just stay up on your research of the areas that you're investing in.
And I mean, honestly, the best
And I
situation is where multiple options work, and then you can pick and choose what you wanna do.
totally. And I would love for you to talk about maybe some other risks that you're seeing out there with some investors and how maybe they're leveraging their money.
Yeah. So I think that for years and years, we've all been told the story of like the unicorn deal that you can do this without any money and you shouldn't put any of your money in. And I think that that can still be ideal, but you have to go into it knowing the risks. And I don't think that a lot of investors know the risks, particularly when you're doing, a rehab deal. So, not all money is good money. And so you want to make sure that like if you're using private money, that they know and you guys are in agreement in terms of like when the exit's going to happen and how it's going to happen. That,
Hmm.
they're not going to pressure you to be selling the house when y- you're doing everything you can to get it out there. And so I think that when an investor comes into a deal and they've borrowed the down payment and they borrowed the closing costs and they're borrowing, the because at least in terms of fix and flips, it's all on like a reimbursement basis. So you have to have a certain amount of capital up front to get the project kicked off. So if you're borrowing all of that money, plus you're borrowing, 90% of the purchase price and all of the rehab, you are essentially leveraged over 100%. So when people talk about like finding the 70-cent deal or the 75-cent deal, you actually have to find like the 50-cent deal if you're leveraging that high because when you go to refinance, if you're doing a cash out refinance, you're going to be limited to 75% loan to value. And so if you're 100% leveraged on that, there is a good chance that you're actually leveraged on the purchase side before you even get into a refinance, more than what you can do a cash out or a rate and term for, which that really caps out at 80%. And so what
Yeah.
you find if you're over leveraged in, many markets, I'm seeing appraisals come in 5 to 8% lower than what original valid comps were. I mean, and these are comps like that don't have hopium in them, and because a rehab takes longer or the market shifts or there suddenly becomes more inventory online. And I think that if you're over leveraged, the risk is you you have fewer exits. You're gonna pay for
Right.
that money at a certain point. You're either gonna have to, bring more money to the table, you're gonna be limited on what kinds of price cuts you can do if it's not selling. You're gonna have to find other sources of private money lending or family funds or gap funds to get you into your next transaction, and you kinda just end up kicking the can down the road, and it becomes really
Yeah.
stressful. So it's a
Hmm.
cautionary tale that says,
Yeah.
like, partner. Maybe even think about instead of doing, you know taking on that extra funds as debt, like consider doing it as a JV partnership. And so then
Mhm.
everybody gets paid when it's sold, and that cost of borrowing money and doing it as a JV as opposed to doing it as like a second lien or additional private money or gap funding, which comes at obscene rates, can save your deal. Because what 12% and 3 points for gap funding, and not even talking about what Gators are charging, it can wreck a deal, and it can do it
Mhm.
fast.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's such good advice. I think it's something that people don't really think about, especially when they're starting out. I think a lot of people think the more they can leverage, the better. Yeah, you have really good practical advice for people. I think that Find Capital is going to be such a success because, I mean, really are providing something that people need. Sadly, we're coming to the end of our time, but, I just really appreciate how much knowledge you have on the industry, on the market, and kind of all of the tips you've been able to share with us. So please tell everyone where to find you and where to find Capital.
Thank you so much, Kristen. It's really been a pleasure to be here. So, you can find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram at Carrie Matuga. Find Capital is FYND capital.com. And you can also call or text me. My number is 773-562-6616. And I love talking with investors. I'm a second set of eyes on many deals. This is really a part of how I give back, because I think that real estate is the best vehicle for for wealth in the future. I think it's I don't think there's anything else that can beat it. But I also think don't do it alone.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here, Carrie.
Thank you, Kristen. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. And thank you everyone for listening. I hope you learned a lot, got some inspiration to maybe look at your deals a little differently, and we will see you back next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.